All right, well, the Pensacola Young Professionals would like to introduce you to all of our candidates we have for House District 2. Tonight, we're going to let these candidates, sort of speak to us and give us some impressions of their character, their personalities, and what they'll bring as someone sitting in this elected position. But first, I want to thank all those that have come tonight. We've got Santa Rosa Young Professionals. I think we've got, by hands, anyone from Santa Rosa? I think we had a couple I saw. Maybe they're just being bashful. We have some folks from LEAP. I saw Reed. Anyone else from LEAP this year? Okay, we've got Seville Rotary, I believe, has been invited. I think a few of them are here. We've also got the folks from Thrive. I see Barry. Anyone else from Thrive tonight? Well, we want to thank you all for coming down here. We're really excited about this one. We've started a tradition last year of hosting forums for different candidates that are going to be our elected officials. I think it's a fantastic way for us to get to know these people because they will be sitting in office, they will be representing us. So this is basically a method for the young folks in our city to get to know these folks. So I want to introduce our moderator. This is Stephanie Tarrick, our board member for the Community Development Group out of PYP, and she's going to basically take over. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I'm excited to hear from these candidates. We're going to get started as soon as possible because, as you can see, we have 6 candidates squished up here in the back, and it's going to take a while to get through these questions. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start off and give them each 2 minutes to kind of introduce themselves, let them know who they are, and just a little bit of background. Candidates, you will have Mr. John Ellis right here. He'll give you a 30-minute heads up and then let you know, 30-second heads up, and then and let you know when your time's up so you can watch him for your time. After that, 1 minute answers for each question and a 1 minute closing. All right, Mark, would you like to start us off? And then after that, we'll just go down the line. Feel free to come up here one at a time.
Good deal. Thank you, Stephanie.
Sorry, one more thing. If you have questions for candidates, Melissa Foswell, I will give you a piece of paper, raise your hand, she'll put you a piece of paper right on it, and we'll get it back to her. We'll get to as many as possible. But just raise your hand and she'll bring it to you.
Okay, good evening. My name is Mark Taylor, and I'm a 32-year-old. I'm a 6th-generation Pensacolian, born and raised up in the Scenic Heights area, and have resided in East Hill for my adult life. Started off, came through all of the Escambia County Public Schools, Scenic Heights, Ferry Pass, Washington. Lord always seemed to bless the works of my hands, whether it was a lemonade stand in elementary school or running multiple businesses in my adult life. I've been very blessed financially. That was my big goal in life, was to have financial freedom. My dad lost his business the year that I was born in 1981, and my mom was the breadwinner for our family as a public school teacher. When I was 19, had a big grow-up week, switched real estate firms, and bought my first house with the help of City of Pensacola low-income housing grant, and actually came home that night and found my dad dead in his chair. And it was quite a grow-up week, and I learned through that experience that I had really been driving after the wrong thoughts, or the wrong goals in life, and really kind of changed my momentum to serving others ahead of myself. Been to over 30 countries around the globe doing humanitarian relief, disaster aid, bringing hope to people spiritually, and that's really my passion. Locally, we've started a group called Pensacola World Changers. We've brought thousands of college students into the area, done over 105 roofs for free for people in the area, 40 wheelchair ramps. Over the last 10 years, we've blessed and sponsored over 1,000 grandkids being raised by their grandparents. So service is really my heartbeat. Some people probably don't know, but I was actually a boy cheerleader growing up, and I got bullied pretty good for that one. But the gamble did work out. I married the girl that I threw up in the air about 3 years ago, and 9 months and 6 days later, our son Luke was born, and we have baby number 2 on the way right now. So I can't travel the globe like I used to, but still have that desire to serve, and would have no greater honor than to serve you guys over in Tallahassee. Thank you so much.
Good evening, all. My name is Mike Hill, and I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Young people are an important part of our political process, and you're going to be huge in this race You're going to be even bigger in 2014. Engage as many of your peers as you can in the political process. I grew up in a military family, and in 1980 I had the honor of receiving a nomination from President Gerald R. Ford to attend the Air Force Academy. I did, and I graduated in 1980. After 10 years active duty Air Force, while in the Air Force, went to school at night and got my MBA from University of West Florida and was selected as a company grade officer of the year. I then voluntarily separated from the Air Force to start a State Farm agency. So I have now been with State Farm for 23 years in their leadership roles and also as an agency. I am a genuine conservative who believes in the time-tested, irrefutable principles of limited government, low taxes, personal freedom, and individual responsibility. Each of those are tied to one another. When you limit government, that leviathan, that ever-growing beast, it doesn't need as much taxes, our hard-earned money, to feed itself, which then gives us more personal freedom to spend our money how we choose raising our families. But with that comes an individual responsibility, that you have a family, that you raise your children in the way they should go, that you become participants in your community just like you are to make it a better place. I hope that you'll vote for me, Mike Hill. It would be my honor to serve you in Tallahassee in our seat. Does not belong to me, belongs to the people. And we need a servant leader over there who is a genuine conservative who will be a voice and not an echo. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having us today. My name is Ed Gray, and I am very proud to be among the candidates to serve you in the House of Representatives, District 2. I'm celebrating my 50th year in being part of the Pensacola area community. I have lived in Gulf Breeze those 50 years. During those 50 years, though, Gulf Breeze at the time did not have advanced K through 12 schools. The junior high level, back then it was called that, and the high school level, I actually went to school in Pensacola, and I'm proud to say I have a lot of close friends and associates in this community. Additionally, during my professional career as a banker, over 25 years, all of the offices that I managed, most of them, the business interests that I looked after, the constituents I served were in the greater Escambia County community. I was proud to get to know a lot of business owners around this area and continue with those friendships today. I've raised 3 daughters in growing up in this area. One of them is at Florida State currently, and 2 have graduated and, like so many people, live out of this community. I long for opportunities where people come back to this community that have grown up here and get a good job and be a part of it and participate and be what we call Pensacola, the heritage of our community, and continuing that. So I'm looking forward to being a part of your governmental structure to go to Tallahassee, gain the respect of my peers over there, and have state government look after the interests of Northwest Florida just like they do all of South Florida and Central Florida, because we deserve that. We're an integral part of the state, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Ed. Well, good afternoon, and thank you all for having us. It's a real honor to talk to you all tonight. Well, let me introduce myself. I'm Jack Nobles. I am a 7th-generation Pensacola family member. I was born and raised here, went to school here, graduated from high school here, and then went off to the University of Mississippi for 2 years, realized that that wasn't where I needed to be, and I came back to Pensacola and graduated from the University of West Florida. I am married to Molly. I've got 3 daughters, Ryan, Whitney, and Meredith. Ryan's 32, Whitney's 30, and Meredith is 26. I'm proud to say all 3 of them are young professionals. Ryan has started her own business in the media business. Whitney is a clinical psychologist, and my youngest daughter, Meredith, is an attorney. And as with Mr. Gray, 2 of those work out of town. One works in Jacksonville, the other works in Houston. I'm a banker by trade. I was 35 years in banking, 24 years with Horizon Bank of Florida, which was my family's bank. It was a community bank which serviced the smaller businesses in the community, and 11 years with Coastal Bank and Trust after my family bank merged with Synovus Financial Corporation in Columbus, Georgia. I served 14 years on the Pensacola City Council, of which I was very proud to do. Honored to have the privilege to be able to serve the people of Pensacola. Basically, I'm a conservative Republican. I believe in family values. I believe in church. I'm a deacon and a Sunday school teacher in my church at First Baptist Church on top of the hill up here. So I would appreciate your vote. I encourage you to vote. It's going to be a short election. Our election is May the 14th, and I would encourage you to come out and support me. If not me, come out and vote anyway. But thank you for your time, and I'll be looking forward to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, my name is Scott Miller. I was born in North Santa Rosa County, right in the middle of the woods on a farm, so I don't know how many of you can connect with that, but it was a real formative time for me, and it helped me gain the perspective that I think I need of hard work and community involvement, because really everyone around us was family, so you didn't really ask, should I help the people next to me? You just asked, what can I do? I'm married to Christina, who's the love of my life, with the other love of my life, my 4-year-old Kennedy, who is the definition of precociousness. And I currently work in my family's business, which is medical imaging, and I have some interest in a recycling company on the north end of town. Now, enough about me. I wanted to get to a piece of red meat in this real election, which is something that's happening right now. When you ask the question, why am I running for the state legislature, nothing says more than the current session, where they're attempting to create a body to take the state funds that are acquired from litigation that Pam Bondi is filing regarding the BP Oil Act. They're going to put this into a 501c3 corporation that is going to be administered by people that are designated by the governor and the leadership of the Senate and the leadership of the House. And none of those people really have a connection with Northwest Florida or the 8 affected counties. The legislation says that this stuff has to come to the 8 affected counties. This is going to be a fund that's going to be used to offset money that they would normally give to us, to give us a feeling like we actually are receiving benefits from the damage that occurred here. And if you want to learn more about it, since I'm being kicked off now, please come to my website at www.scottmiller2013.com. I've got excerpts from the legislation and how they're going to take this money from us. Thank you.
Hello, I'm David Radcliffe, and I was born and raised here in Pensacola. At about age 9, I moved to Gulf Breeze. I'm a product of the Gulf Breeze elementary, middle, and high school. I went to PJC, and I have a degree from UWF. I've been in the insurance business now for the past 28 years. I run the Underwood Anderson Insurance Office in Gulf Breeze. I have my own book of business, my own clients, and I do a lot of work out there on Pensacola Beach, deal a lot with the tourism industry. We have married to my wife, Dottie. She's sitting up here in the front row. We have 3 kids, all grown now and everything. That's kind of bringing a change to my life and everything, where I think now I have the time to be able to go donate time and do things like run for public office. In the past, I've always been very involved in Santa Rosa County politics. Been very active and involved in political races over there. I serve on the Santa Rosa County for the past I believe it's about 12 years. I've been on the Santa Rosa County Civil Service Board. What I'd like to do is take my life experiences of being in the insurance business. We also own and run Breeze Mini Warehouse and Breeze Mini Storage. Have tried to develop those properties, run those. I also do a lot of business on the beach out there, deal a whole lot with tourism. What I'd really like to do is take my life experiences and everything, what it's like to run a business, what it's like to do business in the tourism areas, and take those to Tallahassee and take my experiences there and try to make the Tallahassee better. Thank you.
Let's get a squeal.
Okay, should they stand closer over here? Is that where it's making the squeaking noise? Okay, well, he's moving the podium a little bit so y'all don't have to deal with the feedback. I'll read you the first question, and then Mike Hill, why don't you start us out, and we'll go down and come back around. All right, first question. What type of legislation would you support to enhance workforce training in our community's target industries, such as aerospace, aviation, advanced manufacturing, and cybersecurity? Remember, you have 1 minute.
Northwest Florida is in a perfect position to attract industries like that simply because of what is already in place. Our natural beauty and resources that we have, our deep water ports, the train rail system, we have an airport here, we have a ready workforce already in place. Young folks like you, we have the military, those who either stay in for their entire term or leave early, they are a trained force. We have the education system in place, where here in Northwest Florida, you can go from K4 through your MBA all at the same location. We can attract those companies that are going to be working out of Mobile, the supplier companies, to come here because of naturally what is already here. We just simply have to be better about letting people know that Pensacola is more than just a stop off of Interstate 10 to visit our beaches. We have it all right here. We just need to get that word out.
The audience can hold their applause until everyone answers the question for the sake of time.
Part of my background is I was selected by Governor Jeb Bush for a partial term and then later ran for 2 full terms on the school board of Santa Rosa County. I don't pretend to be an educator, but I have learned what it takes to be effective in the classroom and also to develop workforce training. This area has all the tools, all the workforce warm bodies to be effective in responding to an industry that comes here and has special skills that need to be implemented. We need to have within the school districts, Pensacola State College, UWF, the tools to implement what industries demand of us to be competitive. I'm going to propose, if I am your representative, to have the flexibility in the school districts, the other educational institutions, to be able to implement those skills and training courses and curriculum necessary and on demand by the industry that comes here. And that would be important to be above other areas in a competitive way. Thank you.
Well, there's a situation in this community and in this state and in this country that I think is that needs to be addressed, and that's the education curriculum that our children are being taught right now. We need to teach sciences, we need to teach technology, we need to teach engineering, mathematics. These are things that will help us in the future to get our children motivated and to get them prepared for a world economy. The world economy is something that I didn't have to face when I was coming up. The children today do. And today I had to have biology, chemistry, I had to have Algebra 1, Algebra 2, I had to have either trigonometry or calculus. These courses are not being implemented to their fullest extent in our society right now. And I think that's one thing we need to do, and what I would want to do as a state representative is to help change the curriculum from more social curriculum into more science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Thank you.
I don't think there's anyone in the legislature that can tell you definitively what sort of courses need to be taught in our educational institutions. What I think is we need to enable mechanisms that allow our higher level institutions to partner with our our high schools and other trade education people to create course paths that answer the needs of the industries. When we talk about aviation, we should be able to have people on a track to have entry-level jobs coming out of high school, so that if they only have to train for 1 year at a college level education, they can get a certification or a degree that would enable them to be a value to someone like Airbus. So my answer is make sure that the government isn't the one that's holding back our training mechanisms that we already have in place from keeping people on track and able to get those entry-level jobs in advanced industries such as aerospace, cryptography, and advanced manufacturing.
One of my clients back quite a few years ago and everything, was in the insurance business, was out in Molina. It was called Mariana Airmotive. When I first went out there and started trying to do business with those guys, I found there was a whole bunch of the Naval Air Rework Facility guys. They were the old guys. They were out there teaching a whole bunch of real young guys how to work on airplanes, how to fix parts in them, how to repair them, how to do all that stuff. That business grew, flourished, and has just done extremely well right here in Molino. I think with the Airbus type industries that are going to come to the Mobile area, that the I-10 corridor along here is going to present some real opportunities, and I would support doing something that helps us get those kind of businesses to locate in Escambia and Santa Rosa and Okaloosa counties. I think there's a wealth of knowledge and information in our current older employees that could be trained to help develop more jobs.
Thank you. Yeah, workforce training is actually number 2 on my platform. I personally am a huge fan. I know that not everyone is cut out for college. I wasn't cut out for college. I got my training through thousands of hours becoming a real estate broker and a general contractor and a roofing contractor and a home inspector and a mortgage broker and all that. And I still got blessed to make my first $1 million by 24 and a half. There's other routes to get things done. So personally, the question said for legislature, what could you put forward? I love private and public partnerships, and as places want to come in and move, I'd love to see some kind of incentive that would help grow an education program as part of one of the large suppliers to the Airbus, where they actually train and give certificates and different degrees, out of their programs. That would be my thoughts on what we could do for workforce and vocational training. Thank you.
All right, thank you for not clapping. I know it feels more awkward when you don't, but we have a lot to get through. All right, the second question is kind of fun. This is kind of, well, maybe to a political geek anyway. We're going to ask them, what policy committee and what appropriations subcommittee would you be interested in and feel most qualified to serve on? So hopefully we can see a little bit of their personality and their passion coming out here. Mr. Gray, would you like to start us out?
Without a doubt, commerce and banking. Commerce and banking creates the capabilities for financial institutions in the area, for a lot of other related industries having to do with bringing capital into the area and spurring development. Commerce and banking would be a committee I would seek. The other one, of course, no surprise, an appropriations committee, specifically the subcommittee on education. Education has come a long way, but it's got to go a long way for us to be at the very top of the quartile in the nation in terms of other states. My background with the school board, I think, would help me implement some new ways to do business and support local school districts to do what they do best and not necessarily implement what South Florida believes is right. So those are the committees I would go after and be energetic to serve on.
Well, insurance and banking would be my primary. After 35 years of banking, I know the industry. I served on bank board of the Florida Bankers Association board. I've been involved in banking issues all my entire professional career. I feel like that would be something that I could contribute to, something that I could really get my teeth into and help out. The subcommittee, military affairs. Military affairs is, as we all know, is a huge, huge issue for this area. I was president of the Florida Navy League. I'm familiar with the ways and workings of the military, and I would be interested in making sure that we keep our bases as full and full of employment as we can possibly get, and those would be mine.
Well, I don't think there are two issues more important to this area and this district than military affairs and the Department of Transportation. Military affairs, for obvious reasons, we have to make sure that our military bases have everything they need to keep them here. We can't have encroachment. We can't have port issues or anything becoming obstacles to our military bases. But probably a more life-changing problem here is going to be the Department of Transportation, because whoever goes to Tallahassee needs to be able to, from conception to delivery on that 3-mile bridge, make sure that we never, ever, ever get a toll on that bridge, because nothing's going to change life around here more than you having to stop and pay a toll on that bridge. It's the primary artery around here, and if I went to Tallahassee, I'd make sure that no one ever put a toll on it.
I think they're going into the legislature, there's people from all different type backgrounds that get elected to go down there. If you choose to elect me, you're going to send somebody with a background in insurance and everything. Citizens property insurance is one of the huge issues that are going on in Tallahassee down there. I think I have some other directions that I could send them. What I've tried to present them, I need a better platform to be able to present my ideas. Also, my business background, trying to run businesses along Highway 98 and do development and everything, getting into the business and professional regulation side. That's where I think I could go to Tallahassee and I could make a difference.
All right, thank you. Having the same problem here. As far as the policy committee, economic development and tourism subcommittee would be my first choice. As much as people around here want to get away from tourism, it is a staple, and we've got natural resources. They're beautiful, and we need to embrace that. Some of you may know that we've been pushing a project to try to bring the Kitty Hawk here, a one-of-a-kind attraction that brings thousands of people a day from around the country and potentially around the world. Huge tourism incentive. Haas Center just said it can stand on its own 2 feet and be an $18 million driver into the area. Second, on appropriations, I would definitely choose the Transportation and Economic Development Committee. Again, on transportation, we have a beautiful Deepwater port, we have an airport, we have trains along the train line. For about a year, we've been pushing to try to move the train tracks off the bay, open up 8 miles of waterfront, bless thousands of property owners that would have waterfront access, also to open up the mouth of Bayou Tahar to let it flush naturally. Be a huge win, economic driver, and I'm out of time, so thank you.
Number one for me would be appropriations, because that's where the budget is set. That's where the money is. And that's where I would have the most attention as what's going to happen throughout the state with our budget. Next, of course, would be insurance and banking. 23 years in the insurance business, I would be able to talk that language. And of course, the Military Affairs Subcommittee. Being the only candidate who served active duty, I can speak the military language. I know what they need. I know what they need to complete their mission because I was there. So those would be my top 3. Appropriations, because that's where the budget is set, insurance and banking, and then next, the military affairs. Okay.
I know, I'm sorry about that. Okay, well, our last planned question has to do with military and the Base Realignment and Closure Commission. I know my family personally was impacted by it back in, I think it was 94, when my dad's department got closed down, and we had to move away from Pensacola, but we came back. The implementation process for the 2005 BRAC process recently finished. There are talks of another BRAC occurring in the next few years. What steps would you take to strengthen and protect Florida's existing military installations? If the next round of BRAC called for the closing of a base in our region or the downsizing of an installation's mission, and what would you do to help the impacted defense-dependent economy transition to a non-defense-dependent economy? That was a mouthful. People jumping over there.
Well, BRAC is an ugly word in Pensacola. I know it is, and we have had to deal with 2 rounds of it. The real problem is BRAC is a very political situation up in Washington, D.C. I've made several trips to Washington when I was on city council working with our congressmen and our senators up there. It's something that we have to work on. We have to have good relations, and the state would have to do that also. As far as transitioning, we have a situation in Pensacola where we've got a very strong medical community. We need diversification of our industries. We need to attract new industries to Pensacola and to Escambia County and Santa Rosa County, businesses and industry, and I think the way to do that is through making Florida a more friendly business state. Right now, it's not a very friendly business state. So anyway, those are the things that I would do. Thank you.
Well, like I said earlier, if I could be on the Military Affairs Committee, I would do everything I could to give the military the things that they need to enable them to perform their mission here. But in the event that we do have to, figure out how to live life after BRAC, what I would do is do things to redevelop our port. I'm already working with a group that's exploring different areas and different things that we can do to our port, because there are places with infrastructure already in place with no condemnation, no eminent domain, that would expand our port to a world-class containerized port that could literally double the per capita income of Escambia County. This city was founded on the fact that we have the best natural deep water port in the Gulf. It's the shortest time from the pilot ride to the port, which maximizes the time these boats can spend actually making money going back and forth to their ports. It takes 2 hours to get from the outer buoy in Pensacola. It takes 8 hours on just about every other port. Thank you.
In Escambia and Santa Rosa County, I'm real familiar with what's going on in Santa Rosa County. Around the military base, Whiting Field up there, Santa Rosa County has already taken many steps to limit the type of development that can go on around there. There's even been funding in place from the state of Florida to buy property around the base up there and develop it more into industrial parks and everything. So I would want to see us move forward with doing that doing these type of items to protect the military mission. Again, I go back to the Airbus industry over there. I think we just have a tremendous opportunity to step in and let the develop and bring more people here, and that will transition our current people that are maybe working on the bases. If BRAC steps in and everything and they start shutting some stuff down in the Okaloosa and around Herbert Field and Eglin Air Force Base down there, I think that we have a tremendous opportunity for the trained workforce to help develop around that Airbus industry over Mobile.
Thank you. Personally, I'm optimistic. I feel pretty good about what we have going on. We're training 45,000 students a year. It'll take over $3 billion to create and build something like what we have out there right now. So I personally think that we're in pretty good shape, but obviously we have to keep those affairs good. I was knocking on doors in Perdido Key yesterday, and those jets were swarming, and it drives some people crazy, but it's the sound of freedom, and I love it. So certainly would want to keep great relations with them. We also have the cyber warfare at Corey that's really kicking up. That's a growing, emerging part of warfare. So I feel very optimistic about that as well. As far as if the worst nightmare did happen and we did lose, what everyone else has hit on here as far as the Airbus is monstrous. The civil servants that are already doing a lot of that and supporting the aircraft and things that are happening would be a great fit to get them trained and plugged into one of those other positions with Airbus. So thank you.
This question is a perfect example of why you need someone with a military background in such a strong military area. BRAC stands for Base Realignment and Closure. I actually lived through one when I was stationed at Eglin, and I was on the Commander's Action Group, and we were going through the process then of determining what missions and or bases in the Panhandle would be stopped. What you have to do is each mission has to present themselves to the base commander, showing how effective they've been and why they should remain there. Each time that has happened, we've been able to pass the test. And so our bases are very secure. I spoke earlier today through texting with Congressman Jeff Miller. He assured me that there will not be a BRAC coming in the near future and that our missions here in the Panhandle are safe and ready to go.
The most dreaded reference in the high commands of the military as far as local government is the word encroachment. And to the credit of the counties that we live in, Escambia and Santa Rosa, both counties have done a good job of avoiding encroachment in areas around the bases. That's the way we can protect the bases the best. Through the state of Florida, there have been funds appropriated for the past several years to assist those counties in acquiring areas that would not be developed and would not allow encroachment around the surrounding bases. Being proactive is the best way to fight the BRAC. Being proactive that our bases are already commands that the high officers in the Pentagon understand should be maintained, should be preserved, and should be grown.
All All right, everybody got to answer that one, right? I got you all. Okay, that is all of the questions that we gave you. We do have quite a few submissions from the audience here with their questions. We're going to get to as many as we can before we let you do your closing statement. So I'm going to give it over to Alan. He's kind of gone through some, make sure we don't have any repeats. Alan, you want to come up here and ask him the first question from the audience, and then Scott, you can start us off, and we'll just keep that routine going.
Okay, and be careful with the microphone again. Our first audience question revolves around the Restore Act funds. They're asking, how would you use these funds specifically to enhance this district?
Well, the Restore Act funds are, in my opinion, aren't really a state issue. They're something for the county. It's money that the individual counties have to have and have to be able to judge for themselves. What is the need of this county? How were we negatively impacted? What can we do with this money to address the negative impacts that we had? For some counties, it's going to be tourism. For some counties, it's going to be infrastructure. I don't know what county, what an individual county is going to need. So I'm not really going to be in a position or really inclined to dictate to them that the needs of someone over in Perdido or in Pensacola are going to be the exact same needs as someone over in Washington County. It's just not or in Bay County for that matter. It's just not a fair assessment. So what would I do? I would leave it up to the people who know best what they need.
BP money coming to Pensacola and everything. One thing I'd like to say to start with, I think everybody's dreaming if they think that money is just going to show up here. Current legislative delegation for this area has done a great job of trying to direct the money to the most 7 or 8 affected counties. I think way before that money ever gets here, when the feds get finished with it, when Tallahassee sees that pot of money show up and everything, we need to send somebody to Tallahassee that's going to really fight for that money. Part of my business is I write a ton of businesses out there on Pensacola Beach. Rental houses, condos, people invest in things, businesses all up and down the beach and everything. I was very affected between the hurricane and the economic turn down, and then BP on top of that very much affected my income because of where I am. So keeping the tourism going, we have to spend this money on some very long-term things. I get real upset when I read in the news journal and everything about people coming along with every kind of idea how to fritter this money away on stuff that'll provide them a job for the next 2 or 3 years. You want a specific thing? I try to bring a program. We have an Insurance Agents Association dinner that we do here in Northwest Florida every year when it comes. My time is up and everything. I got all kinds of ideas. Fix a civic center and bring more tourists to town on a permanent basis.
Good deal. Yes, I agree a lot with what Scott was saying. Obviously, the more local the decisions, the better. There's a couple of pots of money. There's the money that's coming federally down to the Gulf Coast and to these 8 counties. That's the restore money you hear the most about. There's another pot of money you probably heard about, Pam Bondi suing BP for $4 billion in lost sales tax revenue. That's a state pot. Obviously, both pots of money are going to be a great blessing to our area. I've mentioned a few projects that I'm personally a fan of. Obviously, the Kitty Hawk would be about a $30 million project, $10 million of that coming from restore funds. Moving the railroad tracks would be a great project, about a $20 million project. But like we said, open up tons of economic development, tons of new tax base from those homes and condos and everything else that will be built along that area, and also a huge environmental deal as well. I haven't looked a whole lot into the other projects. I like the idea of the Beulah Exchange. I know that's a pricey one, but obviously we've got to be competitive with Mobile. We've got to be people that live here and work and move parts back and forth, so that would be a great one as well. But again, the more local the government, the better. Thank you.
One of the first things I would do is form a coalition with our legislative delegation, Representative Broxson and Ingram and Gates and then Senators Evers and Gates, to make sure that we can, as a team, decide how we can get what should come to our counties to come here. And then the decision should be made locally as to how those funds should be expended. For something in particular that I would like to see is pay off the bond on Garcon Point Bridge and get rid of that toll. Imagine how that's going to open up traffic up and down 98 and also around Interstate 10. That can actually bring in businesses. Right now, a round-trip $7 toll is ridiculous. So we can retire that, get it out of the way, and now you're talking about business moving.
I am 61 years old. Hopefully, I've got another 20 or 25 years living here and enjoying this community. Most of you have 2 to 3 times that number of years that you're going to enjoy this community. There's nothing more important than putting the BP funds from all the different sources into the right projects to be long-term payoff. My background is capital, generating capital from various sources. We're about to have the most inexpensive capital influx you can ask for, free money from a big corporate entity that rightly or wrongly is being fined heavy dollars. We've got to make sure that those funding mechanisms that are in place, including what's sent to the cities and counties, are put into long-term projects that will be an investment for your futures 30, 40, 50 years out.
Well, restore money is what restore it means. It means to restore what was damaged to begin with. Yes, this is going to be a big pot of money, and I hope that we get all of it, but I doubt we're going to get all of it. But the basic thing I would like to see is let's clean up what was done. I think that's the intent of the money to begin with. The damage on Pensacola Beach, in Destin, Panama City, all up and down the northwest Florida Gulf Coast is still there. They had excavators out at the beach just 2 weeks ago. I live at the beach right now. My wife and I took a walk on the beach just 3 days ago and found a football-sized piece of oil debris on the beach. They tell you not even to pick it up because it's dangerous. So I think what we need to do, first of all, I think we need to let the local politicians handle this. They're the ones that are involved in it the most, but I would make that recommendation to them first. Let's clean up what was damaged. Let's use the money for what it was intended for. Thank you.
And speaking of jobs, I think we got someone in the audience asking for one. They're asking, each rep hires a legislative aide that works with them in Tallahassee during session. What considerations would you use to hire these people? Just wait till afterward. I think they're going to probably come and talk to you. But I think that would be at least one job. What role does government play in subsidizing business development? And I think we're going to go with, right here, David.
Real quick follow-up on the last question and everything. I'm going to use that for my time. I bring about a 400 people dinner to town and everything. It's real tough to find a place to put 1,000 people down to dinner in Pensacola and everything. Doing something with the Civic Center to let us take that next step up to bring the people that want to sit 1,000 people down to dinner. Keeping our Pensacola Bay and the Santa Rosa Sound over there clean, getting the sewer plant out of there, now get the Navarre Beach sewer plant, and also get the Pensacola Beach sewer plant off of the beach. Those are long-term things that I think we can do. When I go to develop property out there on Highway 98, something that stopped us a couple of times was when we wanted to build buildings and develop a piece of property, the state wanted you to rebuild Highway 98 and out in front of it and everything. Build turn lanes out in the center of the highway, not even in front of your business and everything. Go back, make it make sense where you can develop property. An individual cannot be in the highway part of this and everything. Make it affordable to do more development by getting rid of business regulation.
All right, David, you confused me a little bit. But the first question was...
It was subsidizing business development.
Subsidizing, corporate welfare, some people will call it. I'm not a big fan of corporate welfare. I do think that it has a place in any package that you might put together, but it would have to be a pretty sizable industry, pretty sizable investment for me to agree to do that. I think there are great resources here, and with the right proactive approach can bring people in without having to put a lot of money up to bring them here. But I wouldn't say they would be off the table as your representative. I would certainly weigh every situation, individually, and if it had enough jobs, I've had over 30 employees before. I've never been given a dime of government assistance. So I think that free enterprise does work on its own. I think it will grow, it will flourish. You just have to deregulate in such a way that businesses can thrive and can do and can bring folks in, and they're having a better time than us out there. But that would be my thoughts on that. Thank you.
I am a free market capitalist zealot because that is what works. It has been proven in the crucible of world history that whenever you allow people the freedom to freely exchange, that nation, that people prosper. What would I do? What position does government subsidies have in business? None. Government should not be in the business of picking and choosing who comes to this area by giving them incentives. Let the market determine that. The market can do it more efficiently and more fairly. But we have, instead of this capital cronyism of picking who's coming, we've learned time and time again, look it up, studies, that whenever you pay companies to come into this area, you have a very low return on your investment. 20, 30 years later, you have not gotten back the money that you've paid those companies to come here. Google it and look it up. You'll see. I am completely against government subsidies. Let the market do it itself. Go to a zero corporate tax rate. That will bring the companies here.
I too am for the free enterprise system when the playing field is level and everyone's out there doing the same thing. Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and states all around this country offer incentives for businesses to come to an area. The big expansion of Navy Federal would not have happened without some incentives. Until the level playing field exists, until we don't have to compete with those neighboring states and others around the country, we're going to have to offer incentives or we're going to go nowhere. It's that simple. So in order to meet the competition, which is part of the free enterprise system, the competition being what other states are doing, we've got to have that and process it in place and use it wisely.
Well, I am also a free market person, but as Ed said, the playing field's not always level. Just 60 miles to the west of us right now, the Airbus came in. Alabama also got a steel plant. They also have 2 automobile manufacturing plants. I've got a friend that lives in South Carolina. They've got 16 industries in his town, and his town is not as big as Pensacola. All of these things were done by state or local governments getting involved in trying to attract businesses by giving them some reason to come. Businesses operate on a bottom line, and if you can't increase their bottom line, then they're not likely to be coming to you if somebody else is willing to do that. We need to be a more business-friendly state. We need to cut our taxes and give incentives for businesses to come. Thank you.
Well, I think the best function of government and business is more as a referee than anything else. But I agree that you have to be a little bit realistic about whether or not a company is going to come here. If we control our regulatory agencies to the point, our biggest problem that we have isn't as much the regulations. We can change regulations and restrict regulations all we want. But if the people who actually implement those regulations are left to their own devices like they are right now, then they still can have a stranglehold on business. I have a couple of businesses. I spent $100,000 last year defending one of my employees against a DEP action for receiving material at a recycling facility that by statute we're allowed to take. And it's just because the DEP decided that day they wanted to enforce rules a certain way. We have to make these regulatory agencies respond in a way that their mission is to see what they can enable and not what they can stop. It's going to be
Okay, well, we're down to our last audience question, gentlemen. And this question is, what do you think is the top issue of concern for young professionals in the district? And what action will you take on that issue?
Thank you, Alan. I think it's the very first thing in my platform, and that's jobs. I mean, what do we want? We want stability. We want security. I've got a 2-year-old. I've got another one on the way. I want to know that 30 years from now, when my son is my age, that we left Northwest Florida better than it is when we were here. And that's my goal, and that's my promise to you guys. If elected, I will do everything I can to make that happen. So obviously we've covered jobs, in my opinion, pretty thoroughly tonight. The economic development side, the tourism side, diversifying, the military, manufacturing, Airbus, you name it, and that's what we've got to do. We've got to be aggressive. We've got to woo these industries in here. We've got to make sure that when you sign on with a company, that it's secure and it's stable, and that you'll be able to provide for your families for the next 30 years until you decide to retire. And I believe that that's the most pressing thing for our age. Thank you so much.
Of course, jobs creation is important for everyone, and that's number one on my platform also. Jobs creation, protecting our military, and then education. I've been married 30 years now to the wife of my youth. I have a son who is a sophomore at University of West Florida right now, majoring in business. So my concern is when he graduates, am I going to get some return on my investment, and will he get a job? So the idea we need to do is attract businesses to come into the area, and I think how we can do it is by going to a zero corporate tax rate. That will attract companies here. We already have the natural beauty and the workforce that will be able to support that industry. So jobs is number one for me, as I'm sure it is for you also.
The best goal and highest objective I think all of you have is to put good people in government at all levels. If you have local government, state government, working in such a way that the leadership sets the right example, that they bring forth ideas that are spurred by you and listened to and put into place because they're good ideas and they're constructive. And if you have people that go over to Tallahassee and work the system, not using words like fight for us or get us our share, you words like we need to gain respect of the peers. We need to have them respect us so that we gain momentum and we achieve what we need to. I intend to be the type of leadership that you can be proud of, that you can call upon, and help you implement ideas that are good for this area.
Well, don't want to sound like a broken record, but jobs is the most single important thing facing any of us right now. Jobs in the economy are things that we need to promote. Like I said, 2 out of 3 of my children right now live in other towns, other major cities, Jacksonville and Houston. They're doing very well. We need to get things done in Northwest Florida. We need to get businesses here, big businesses here, small businesses here, where the future security of your job is guaranteed. Like I said earlier, I spent 24 years in one job and 11 years in another. That's a rarity these days. It's a very rarity. And I would like to see that come back. Job security and being able to raise your family in a beautiful environment like the city of Pensacola or Gulf Breeze or Pensacola Beach or Perdita Key is paramount. And I think that we miss out and we shortchange our children and our young people when we are not able to provide that quality of life for them. Thank you.
Well, of course, I'm going to say jobs, but I will say that the focus really has to be on the ground level jobs. You know, the reason that's important for professionals is because professionals generally are the people who are responsible for the administrative functions of any business. They direct the workforce, and they account for the things that they do, and they handle the financial aspect, funding of the companies. But if we don't have a good, solid base of people actually performing the work, actually making things and doing things, then all of the professional people are going to have nothing to do, but maybe go do the things that the other ground level people are going to do. You know, our education system for a long time has been focused on sending everyone to college. But if you go look at a heavy equipment operator who starts out, according to workforce.com, starts out in this area around $48,000, and compare that to a commercial loan originator who starts out around 32, I think that the heavy equipment operator is a much more attractive option. So we need to focus on those kind of jobs.
Absolutely, jobs. 3 kids. One of them has gone off to South Florida down there and everything. She's got a job with TD Bank down there and everything. And I think she's only 26, 27. I think within another year or two, she's going to be making more money down there than I do here. I have another son that he went to South Florida, went to school. He did come back. He's working in the office with me. I'm paying him. He said I get the idea he's pretty jealous about the kind of money that my daughter's making down there compared to what I'm willing to pay him in this area. we got to do something. We got to turn loose the small businesses, something that the young professionals do and everything. I have lots of my friends in this area that they've gone to school, they've got their educations. That's what we needed to work on, turn them loose in their small businesses. I write lots of air conditioning guys and heating guys and contractors. Those guys all make a very nice living and everything in this area. We have to turn small business loose and get them going.
In my high heels, can't make that step. Well, okay, I'm sorry we couldn't get to all the questions. Obviously, it's getting close to 7 o'clock, so we need to make sure everyone stays on schedule. But I have to say that you guys did an awesome job staying with the time and staying on point. I have never seen candidates do it better, and I've been involved in a lot of forums, so I need to hear some clapping. So let's clap. And I really enjoyed the informative answers you gave us also. Thank you all for coming out. We're going to go to closing statements now. And again, 1 minute. We're going to start with Mr. Hill and work our way around like we have been. So let's get our closing done and get y'all out of here.
What we need coming out of Tallahassee is good government, because good government will give us good public policy. Now, what I consider good public policy is made up of 4 factors. There's probably more, but 4 that are important to me. Number 1, is it constitutional? That's number 1 for me, because as an officer in the Air Force, I set an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And when I left the military, and if there's any military veterans out here, you are still obligated by that oath. There is no expiration on it. So for me, good public policy, is it constitutional? Secondly, is it fiscally sound? It's an awesome responsibility to go to Tallahassee knowing that we are allocating the money of hard-working people. That should not be done frivolously to further your own political career or help your buddies with their capital cronyism. Third, good public policy, what problem will it fix? Both short-term and long-term. Long-term thinking, I'm talking about 5 years and out. And then fourth, of good public policy, is it morally sound? For me, that bedrock is the Bible. I'm a Christian, and that's what I would form my basis on to make good public policy. Thank you.
At 28 years old, I was elected to the Gulf Breeze City Council. At 32, I was elected mayor. I then went on to realize that at a young age, humility is a big part of the job. I felt my Wheaties. I probably made a lot of people mad, thinking that position was just the king of the throne. Well, I'm here to tell you that the king of the throne is the one that sits back and lets his subjects come to them and tell them how to do the job and take the ideas. I'm not going to go to Tallahassee to be king of the throne, except to achieve a leadership position within the legislature and incorporate ideas you send me and work with you to make this community that much better. Thank you.
Well, I think after serving 14 years in the Pensacola City Council, the major thing that you need in Tallahassee is honesty and integrity and the willingness and the desire to do the job in spite of overwhelming odds. I had some overwhelming odds when I was on the council, and I always made the decision that I thought was the right thing. I did it, and I'm proud of the fact that I stood my ground. I think you need to have people with the will and desire and the want to do the job. It's hard to get over there and not let your ego get to you. Well, that's the first thing that happens if you're not careful, is you think you're something that you're not. We will represent you. We will be your representative over there, not our representative over there. And you have to be honest with the people, whether they want to hear what you have to say or whether they don't want to hear what you have to say. You have to be honest with them. And if I am your representative, you'll know how I'm going to vote before you see my hand go up. Thank you very much.
We've had a lot of complicated questions tonight, and they really deserve more than bullet point answers. And unfortunately, that's all we've had time to give. Some of the questions took longer than the responses were given. But if you'll go to my website, hopefully I can flesh out a little more of those questions, the answers to those questions for you. As far as what I would do in Tallahassee, you know, the way this seat is constructed, because of term limits, the person who holds this seat is going to be in line for leadership because they'll have maximum seniority by the time they hit term limits. And the leadership in Tallahassee is going to pull you aside on your first day and say, if you'll just play ball with us, you're already in line for leadership. If you'll do what we ask, we're going to make sure that you become leader. And that's going to be something that just can't be important to you, because what they're really asking you to do is to forsake your district for what the rest of the state wants to do. And we have some very important things going on in this district. We already get slighted for South Florida more than we ever should. The person that takes this seat has to be ready to say no when it comes time to buy into leadership and to sell out this district. And that's all.
Thank y'all for having us down here tonight and everything. Hopefully tonight I've given you a little bit of a glimpse into who is David Radcliffe, what does he do, where does he work, how has he been raised, you know, what I do. I think I tried to show you that I work real hard. Not everybody can go to Tallahassee. That's why we're only going to elect one person to go down there to represent you. I would like to go represent you, take my ideas, go down there. If you'd like to vote for, if you like what I work, do, and stand for and everything, elect me to go down to Tallahassee and work for you. Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you. We've been having forums almost every day now for a while, and I got to be honest with you, this was the one I've been the most nervous about. Something about being with your peers is kind of a little bit nerving. But I can honestly say there's some good men on the stage. There's weaknesses, there's strengths, and I can honestly say no one will work harder for you than I will, though. My youth, my energy, my global experience, my vision, I will work very hard for you. And I get asked all the time, and this is all I ask you is when you go vote and when you tell your friends what you're going to do. I get asked all the time. I've been knocking on doors. I don't have money for mailers or robocalls or anything else. If you don't see me on your door, check out my Facebook page. You probably won't know what my name is. But people ask me all the time, so-and-so and so-and-so is the front runner. Who would you pick between those two? And I say, sir, that's great. I said, but front runner is, you know, what the media tells you, what maybe a poll might have said. But vote your conscience when you go and vote. I know people want to be on the winning team, and that's all good. The bottom line is, even if I lose this election, you know, not too far down the line, if one of these guys wins, you'll be able to say, I told you so, and you should have elected Mark. So thank you so much. Y'all have a great night.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming. Those who I don't know, I'm Elizabeth Buswell, co-chair of Government Affairs this year. I want to start off by thanking all of our candidates for joining us: Mark Taylor, Mike Hill, Ed Gray, Jack Nobles, Scott Miller, and David Radcliffe. Thank you all so much for coming. I also want to thank Seville for letting us use this space, and Seville Rotary for joining us, members of Thrive Pensacola for joining us, LEAP for joining us, and any Santa Rosa Young professionals who've joined us.